stand it anymore. I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here.
Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Stewardess, please let me handle this.
I've got to get out.
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this. Calm down. Calm down. Get a hold of yourself.
Doctor, you're one on the phone. Everything's gonna be all right. Please.
Sister, please, I'll handle this.
I've got to get out of here. Out of here. I've got to get out of here.
Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as the Funky Chicken. And as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. Oh my goodness. It is actually kind of crazy here in Cowboy land. I guess this is content gold for us YouTubers. Jerry is definitely keeping us in the mix. You know, it's hard to believe that it's hump day. We've got the Commanders in the playoffs. RFK Stadium is about to be demolished, and the Commanders may become the Redskins moving back to D.C. with Dan Quinn and 4 former Dallas Cowboys players, as well as Joe Witt and another coach that are doing well, that literally turned themselves around to go deeper in the playoffs than we did last year. Going deeper in the playoffs than we did last year. Let that sink in for a minute. You got the Philadelphia Eagles, who 2 years ago lost in the Super Bowl to Kansas City. Number 2 seed, going to the divisional round. And Jerry Jones, he can't even fire anybody to move on. It sucks right now being a Cowboy fan. Jason Garrett says, whoever is hired as the new coach, don't try and change Jerry Jones. Because, you know, as they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and Jerry Jones is not going to change. The words that we're hearing, and, you know, there's always what you hear and what's actually factual are two different things. But that Jerry Jones is basically, this is Jerry Jones. This is not Catboy. This is Jerry Jones going it alone, making a few calls. Depending on, the question you have to ask is, did all this waiting hurt the Cowboys? Well, it depends on who you're trying to get. If you're looking at Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, you can't talk to them till they're out of the playoffs. If it's about Jason Witten or Deion or somebody like that, it's not slowing you down. But the thing is I will say time is of the essence. One thing I can say that Catboy is right about is player acquisition is a 365-day-a-year job. And at the moment, we don't know if any of the coaches are coming back, which means we don't know what kind of defense. Are we going to be a 4-3, 3-4? Are we going to be the Texas Toast offense? Because that dictates the type of players you want to keep and or acquire. The longer you take to decide who the coach is, the longer it's going to take to get the assistant coaches in place and for them to come in and evaluate the team to fit what they want to do. Especially if you're going to handicap the coach. Unless Jerry Jones is just going to go ahead and say, I'll pick a coach whenever and I will give him these players to work with, which is a possibility. Now, per RJ is it's interesting, his list. Good, realistic candidates. I'm not sure I'm crazy about this list because the head on it is Kellen Moore. I don't feel like, nothing against Kellen Moore. I just do not feel like Kellen Moore is a culture changer and a motivator. I just don't. I don't see it. There's nothing that I have seen with Kellen Moore on the sidelines that say that. And what I will equate that to is I can think of Norv Turner, who was incredible play caller. Got the X's and O's better than anybody out there. But as far as being a head coach and a motivator, not that guy. Not that guy. Not even close. Brian Flores, I think I might be able to get on board with the Brian Flores. I think that's a guy who would be a motivator. That's a guy I think who could relate to the players. But I don't see Brian Flores being a guy that Jerry Jones would want, because Brian Flores bucked the Miami Dolphins owners because the owners wanted to tank, and he was like, screw you, we're going to win. Pete Carroll, I think, is old. Aaron Glenn, I think Aaron Glenn, much like Brian Flores, I think both of those two would be the best two on the realistic. Aaron Glenn has worked for the Cowboys before, so having that relationship definitely puts you in better company, because the Joneses, what's thought about the Joneses is Jerry already kind of has in mind the guys he wants and doesn't really need to interview them because he knows Kellen Moore. If he wants Kellen Moore, I'll just bring in Kellen Moore. I know that guy, been around here for a long time. And that may explain a lot on the hires where we always hear we believe in our own guys, because you're not willing to take a risk to learn, or the time to learn about somebody else. Bad realistic. Jason Witten. I feel like Jason Witten's coming in some capacity. That's the guy that they're going to want in the future. Sad thing will be is they'll bring him in. He'll become a hated person in Dallas. Deion Sanders, I don't think it's going to happen right there. I just don't see that. And Jason Garrett. Oh, God. No. I don't know. Give me Rex Ryan before you give me Jason Garrett again. At least I get some attitude. Feels impossible. Ben Johnson, I have to agree with that. Ben Johnson basically put him on blast, and Joe Brady. So, yeah. So, I don't know which one of those guys are going to be the better suited one. We'll have to wait and see what the Cowboys do, because nothing the Cowboys do makes sense. Now, not to be like Kimberly Martin, Kmart, but now we're getting the trashing of Mike McCarthy. You know, it's funny that when you're dating a woman, girl, I just love my man. I just love, he takes good care of me. You know, he ended up making sure the air was in my tires and my gas tank was full. And, he takes me to that favorite restaurant and stuff. I just love him. Oh, he my boo. You break up, girl, he wasn't about shit. Never did satisfy me. I'm glad I got rid of him, because he wasn't worth shit. That's how they do. That's how people do. That's how you do, because everything, there's always three sides to everything. Your side, my side, and somewhere in the middle lies the truth. Because in the end, we want to go ahead and not look bad. We want to shade things that I'm not the bad guy. He or she was. And that's what we're getting, I think, from 105.3 The Fan, because Bobby Belt was going through, and now we're hearing all kinds of stuff. That it was Mike McCarthy who wanted to get rid of Amari Cooper. That Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy didn't get along too well. That it was literally hell on earth, that, he was making things difficult for people. The thing that's funny to me is Dak Prescott said, it's a bummer. Micah Parsons looked like he was in shock on his podcast. I don't remember anybody saying it was a bummer when Kellen Moore left. I don't remember anybody saying we want that guy back. Now, I know Dak Prescott is very politically correct. He's going to toe the company line. He's not going to say, Jerry, you screwed up by firing the guy. Even after Mike McCarthy threw him under the bus. Let's listen into some of the Bobby Belt conversation about the things that are going on. I think this is the Cowboys now. Literally, this is what kind of makes you feel like Jerry Jones is just vindictive. Maybe in his mind, what they were trying to do was force him out. So that way they didn't have to make the call, that he walked away. Because it doesn't sound like they actually really offered him a contract. But they made it so that it was so uncomfortable. It's like, bro, nobody would take this. When you say that we're going to offer you a 1-year deal with basically an option, so to speak, on a second year, full of incentives. I can't say I blame Mike McCarthy for walking away. I don't know why anybody would want to. And what I would say is, if I'm a coach looking at this, okay? If I'm a coach looking at this, and I come in, and 3 of the 5 years, I have 12-5 records without the organization lifting a finger to try and make the team better, and now I am the fall guy, and I was one of the lowest paid coaches in the NFL, do I look and say, yeah, that's the place I want to go? I don't think so. And I think the more that comes out about this, the worse the Cowboys look at like, and somebody like Ben Johnson or Joe Brady would say, hell no, there are better options.
Sports station, but he's been dancing for 5 minutes in the commercial break. And on the radio, on the Odyssey app, live on the Fan Cam, Twitch, and YouTube is our Cowboys insider and member of Sean and RJ, Bobby Roberto Belt. Good morning, sir.
What's up? How's it going?
Are you standing?
I am standing, and I'm not wearing pants either.
Oh,
All right.
Not wearing pants. Okay.
I want you to paint the scene for us and all the listeners of where you were, what were you doing, and how did you react when you heard the breaking McCarthy news?
So I was actually driving in Frisco. I was coming from the Star. I was on the phone with you, and we were just talking about some of the buzz that was starting to trickle out that, hey, this might be the direction it's heading. I was actually leaving the Star coming from the draft show, where I've also recently gotten my way over personnel. So this is just a great run for me. But I think that, we were in the car, we're talking. You had mentioned it earlier. I was listening earlier. You had to flash over to get Spittle, and as you did that, I was getting a text of the same thing Spittle was telling you about, and I was like, oh, he's out, he's done. I was driving to Plano to go see players work out at Exos, and when I got there, Nick Harris had been there too, and so we spent a lot of time just talking, working through things, calling different people, and so it was a surprise. I didn't think, I thought even if they were going to move on, I didn't think we were going to get just some announcement like that. I thought they were going to milk it out completely until things were over and we were going to move on. But my first impression from this, and the one that I still have, I know everybody's talking about this, is like he walked away from the Joneses, and I think that's part of it. But this also felt very much like, let's make him want to quit. Let's make him want to quit. We're not going to fire him, but we'll make him want to quit, and we'll just move forward like that. Yeah. But now begins what I think will be
Which
a
seems
fairly
really,
long
really,
search.
Just man,
that
you know
seems really unnecessary, small, and petty. Even
yeah, you know what? Being a fucking man and just say, you know what? You're fired. You're fired. We're moving on. Get it done. You ended up hamstringing him on his future. If you don't want him, okay, fine. It didn't work out. Appreciate you, but no, we're going to make sure we get every single day of this contract. We're not going to let him off with an extra week. No, you're going to stay here. You're not going to talk to anybody. That's how fucked up this organization is. Excuse my language.
While at the same time costing yourself the opportunity to talk to other candidates.
Mm-hmm.
It's competitive too. I mean, like honestly, whether it's classy or not, the Joneses probably view it as like it's the same mentality that says I'm not going to pay you to do nothing. I'm also not going to let somebody else have access to you. This is my contract that I have with you. You're my employee, and so until you're not my employee, nobody gets to talk to you. I don't care if you're not going to be here. It feels like a very territorial thing. It's something they've done in the past with they did it to Matt Eberflus years ago. Kyle Shanahan wanted to bring him on staff in San Francisco. Cowboys blocked it, and Eberflus kind of put in his head, okay, all right, well, I guess I'm just going to run out my contract here, and then we'll say goodbye.
How many years do you think Mike was asking for at a minimum? Do you think 2 years, a 2-year extension is insulting?
I get why he wouldn't want it, especially, look, they didn't even get to the terms of the deal. So, I mean, it could have been that Jerry was saying, we want a 2-year deal, but essentially it's a 1 year with an option or something along those lines. Or when he talked about these escalators he had to hit, maybe it was like, well, your contract triggers for the second year if you do this.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're back in the same spot. I would imagine Mike was probably asking for 4. Here was talking to people. I would not be surprised if the thought process here was, and this is where, as a human, as a person, you have sympathy for Mike McCarthy. I would imagine he was probably wanting to structure things to where he was here through his kids getting through school, is what I imagined a lot of this was. So that's probably 4 years. I think he was probably thinking along the lines of 4 years, and he wanted that kind of security, because that is jarring. Look, he when we asked him about reflecting on his time in Dallas the last time we interviewed him, that was the first thing he mentioned was PCA with Prestonwood. It was basically the first thing he jumped into, is how much his kids and his family felt really tied to that community. And so, yeah, uprooting your family, uprooting your kids while they're in the middle school, that's tough. We make decisions here all the time. Kristen and I were talking the other day about something, and she essentially was just saying, like, well, we can't move out of this area, period, until Laura's out of school, because we're not going to another school district. We're not going to move out of here. And so it's jarring, I'm sure, for them, and you have sympathy for that. But I think that's probably what he was looking at. Like, let me get my kids through school, and then we can take another look at things.
Yeah, I know you said that, maybe they were trying to push him out or get him to quit. Regardless, do you think, that if he really was the one that said, I'm out, I'm walking away, do you think they were taken aback by that? Like that somebody said no to them?
This late in the process, probably. Like, I think if they were trying to push him out the door and make him fed up, they may have expected him to kind of, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore last week. Once you let this process go on longer and more jobs go off the board, and New England goes off the board, or these coaching searches get deeper, the Jets interview their 40th person or whatever the hell they're doing. Like, the further you get along in that process, the further behind you are. And they may have felt like, okay, why didn't you tell us to, jump in a lake last week? Why would it be now? But overall, I mean, I think they got ultimately what they want. I think they talked last week. I mean, Monday, they had their wrap-up stuff last week. Tuesday, I know he spent like 10 hours in Jerry's office. Like, he was there all day. And I think they continue to have that. And it does feel a little bit, just imagine that. I want you to think you guys are out of contract, and Spittle's pulling you into his office for the entire workday that Spittle's there. And he's just talking to you generally about, how do you feel about the show? How do you guys feel about this segment? And you're like, are we going to actually establish at all what I'm doing here? Are we going to be here for the future? Are you just going to look back at, like, how did the show go last week? This is weird.
Yeah.
And so I think Mike McCarthy got to that point, and as much as it was, I'm fed up, I think it was also, oh, okay, I see. I see what this is. All right, we're not going to come to an agreement here.
Cowboys insider Bobby Belt joining us here on Sean and RJ 105.3 The Fan. Did the Cowboys butcher this from a timing standpoint in terms of missing out on other interview opportunities?
No, I don't think so. Not based on who they probably want to talk to. So if they want to talk to Jason Witten, if they want to talk to Deion Sanders, if they want to talk to Kellen Moore, if they want to talk to John Gruden, they're really not beholden to any of this. Kellen Moore kind of, but Kellen Moore's in the middle of a playoff run. And so to them, they probably think there's no huge rush there. They're going to wait through, see what happens with Kellen, but they know Kellen. and they've got some relationship repair to do there from how he departed. And I think that they feel like a lot of the candidates that they want to target, they don't need permission to interview. And that's probably why Jerry said to Alec and Corey in his last interview, he said, look, the candidate pool really doesn't affect my decision on this one. It has relevance usually, not on this one, because I think he knew generally who he was going to narrow it down to.
So Vrabel, Belichick, I shouldn't be bitter that they did not, set themselves up earlier to talk to them.
Right. So I don't know if Belichick was going to happen here the more you talk to people. So Belichick couldn't. I heard you guys earlier talking about why didn't you back channel things with Bill? Seth Wickersham talked about this a little bit, and I had asked around on it. So the lawsuit involving Brian Flores that Belichick and the Patriot group is kind of tied to, that makes it really difficult for them legally, outside of just league rules. Legally puts them in compromising positions in the courts, potentially, if you have certain contact with them. It's just they can't have communication with them right now. And so it was really tough to back channel anything. And you got to think, who was in that little group with him? It was Michael Lombardi, who we enjoy having him on when he came on. He pissed off a lot of people in the league. It's one of the reasons Jacksonville was off the tables, because he pissed off Tony Khan. Matt Patricia, who had been driven out of the league. Josh McDaniels driven out of the league. It's guys who don't have a lot of relationships right now and have burned a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
And so it was probably tough to back channel some of that. Am I surprised that maybe Belichick didn't say, hey, Schefter, can you float a couple things to me? Then, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that didn't happen. But again, I think they also want, culture is going to be big to them. I think they also want an offensive guy, because I think they look at it and say, that's where all our money's tied up. I'm not going to have all our money tied up in the offensive side of the ball and then hire somebody to coach, linebackers on rookie deals that then we're going to turn them out.
Was Deion Sanders a publicity stunt last night?
I think probably. You can't say with certainty that anything is. I just think if they're talking to him, that matters. I think for
does it matter for the
Jerry,
Rooney Rule?
It definitely matters for that. And they've checked that box in the past with Marvin Lewis, where that was not a real interview.
It wasn't.
And sorry if that offends anybody over there who's listening right now, but that was not a real interview. And Deion, I think, is just, it's mutually beneficial. Deion's trying to build a very bright, shiny, loud, prominent program, and tying his name to the Dallas Cowboys does not hurt. Yeah. Especially when he can say, oh, the Dallas Cowboys? Guys, I chose Boulder over the Dallas Cowboys. That should tell you something. Meanwhile, Jerry gets one of the Rooney Rule interviews checked off of his list, and he also gets a chance to keep his name going and generating.
That's all it's about.
They tease it at halftime of the game last night. Their lead tease was Joe Buck saying more on the Cowboys coming up, and it's like, which is what he wants and what he likes, and it's generated more buzz than anything that they did this year. It's.
By the way, do you know that? Do you know that?
Which is sad, because that's all we got is being dysfunctional. How crazy is that? That's what Jerry Jones is happy with. That's why you wait. That's why you wait until opening Sunday to finally sign your quarterback. Even though it costs you, another $5 million per year, that's okay, because whether we win or lose, we're taking over the headlines. It is freaking insane. I don't understand it. I just don't. Instead of saying, let's be relative by being a winning team, I think the Cowboys would be talked about more if they made it to the NFC Championship game instead of being completely dysfunctional. But then again, I'm not worth $10 billion. Let's finish this off with Rich Eisen. And this, whether you like me or hate me, it's up to you. But things that I say, it's funny you hear later on that people are saying, well, why do they do that? I think I said from the moment the last week that we had, the season was over, that I didn't care which way Jerry Jones went. If you want to keep Mike McCarthy, okay, I'm fine. Keep him and support him. Or after the game Sunday, fire him. start the process of looking for the next guy. Get it done soon as possible. Stop waiting to contracts to get done for the publicity. Stop waiting to go ahead and hire a coach and then don't allow them to do what they want to do. I mean, when you see these coaches right now, Mike Vrabel being hired, do you think they're going to tell that New England's going to say, here's your offensive coordinator? They may say, well, what do you think about Josh McDaniels? But I guarantee you it's going to be his decision on who he has for his coaches and who he has for his players and who they want to draft position-wise and players. So that way they can make those decisions. That's not the Cowboys. Oh, no. You're the coach. Kinda. I'm the GM. Will McClay, you're kind of the GM, but so on.
Why does Jerry wait so long? Why does he wait to the last minute to do things? Why? Why
no
don't
sense.
they jump into the free agent market? Why don't they go ahead and sign their guys earlier when it would be cheaper for them? Why are they dragging stuff out? And Machota said that was part of the reason, if not the main reason, why McCarthy's not coming back. It's because Jerry was dragging it out to the point where McCarthy's like, this ain't working, I'm bouncing. Because I'm seeing other options that I might have potentially dry up because they're already down the road looking at guys I need to start interviewing. Mm-hmm. And now is better than tomorrow if tomorrow is going to be the same as now. And the answer comes back that Jerry likes being talked about.
Bottom line.
And if this
Shocking.
I get it. But if this is true, do you know what the best way to be talked about is in the NFL?
Winning.
As a winner.
Winning.
That just takes care of itself. You want to be everywhere at all times? You want to be everything everywhere all at once? Win.
Yeah, but Rich,
No, a second. Wait,
they haven't won and they are everywhere.
I know that. CJ, I know. I'm just saying the best way to be everywhere, where they are anyway, is to be talked about as a winner. And if you focus on that instead of just saying it's still better to be talked about even if we lose, which one would you rather have? And I don't understand. Take a look at the Kansas City Chiefs right now. People have Chiefs fatigue because they're everywhere, bundling your this or singing, that. They're everywhere. But they're also not just everywhere, they're everywhere being talked about as dynastic. So focus on that. I know that sounds so simple. And it used to be part and parcel, where you were talked about and you were also talked about being dynastic. Those days are 30 years gone, officially. Now, as of this year, 30 years now. Which is why you sound as frustrated as you did yesterday and what you just said to me a moment ago, TJ.
They're just not going to do right.
But the whole idea of we're just going to drag it out instead of handling it before so you could save money and add more people to your team and thus get to the winning part. As opposed to being focused on the being talked about part, which is way it looks from the outside looking in. It may not be that inside the building, but from the outside, if you want to talk about how you're being talked about, this is how you're being talked about, where it's more important to be talked about than winning. That's what it looks like. Right?
I mean, yeah.
That's what it's.
It makes sense. What you're saying is making sense. But when you look at the fact that they are the most valuable franchise and he's getting movie roles, it just, I've said this before and I'll continue to say it. I don't know that winning is a top priority for that organization.
I bet you that. And by the way,
Very fair.
That's not unfair to say that.
How long have I been saying this?
But Mike, I'm sure it would get them very upset because that's all they want to do is win. But if that's the case, then drill down, to use the landman phrase.
Interesting.
Drill down
Like 13,000.
on getting stuff done early. Drill down on saving yourself money on decisions that are inevitable. Identify the inevitable, drill down and save your money, and then smartly go shopping to supplement instead of saying, we believe this is our team, and obstinate.
Some people
all in.
Rich,
Obstinate all in.
I just realized something, man. I'm listening to you, and everything you say is making sense. But then how can you convince a billionaire who's done everything his way, who
is a billionaire?
We heard the story on Landman, who drilled those holes and drilled and found the gas and the oil, and did it his way. How you're never going to convince him. What you said made so much sense. It did. But guess what? In one ear, out the other, because once you have that much success, no one can ever tell you anything.
I don't know, because John Machota of The Athletic said that Jerry in his dotage is listening to more and more people, and is maybe part of the dragging out process is a listening tour that he never used to go on. Somebody needs to tell him what I just said.
Well, he'll hear it because he watches the show.
I'm sure.
For sure.
I'm sure.
It's a mess.
Because I keep shaking my head about it. And it's crazy.
You're not the only one.
You know who also is a gold standard franchise that is known for not spending all of their capital on coaches?
Patriots?
No, our neighbors down the road, the Lakers.
Yeah.
Who haven't done that in a long time. Like Phil was the last one, in the same way like Bill was the last.
Okay, we'll leave it right there. We're a mess, people. We're a mess. That's all I can say, man. It's kind of crazy. Jerry's going to do what Jerry's going to do. There's no ramifications. He ain't losing the job. And if it pisses people off, I think he gets off on that. So we have two choices. Either be a Cowboy fan and understand this is what you got, or go elsewhere. That's it. I am going to do a follow-up video of something that's not Cowboys related, even though people try and turn it into being Cowboys related. I have been seeing all of these videos lately of people buying cars and having outrageous car payments for vehicles. And some people are like, well, if they can afford, I mean, why are you telling somebody how to spend their money? I'm not telling them how to spend the money. I am just saying that if you have a 500 credit score and you're getting a loan for 300 payments at $1,500 for a car that's 8 years old, it's not exactly a good investment. It's not. I'm sorry. That is the worst debt in the world. And I get it. You want to have a fancy car so you can, look good for the ladies. But if you're living in your mom's basement and half of your salary is going to this car, you're a jackass and an idiot that are completely financially illiterate. If you've got a growing business, because one guy was like, hey, I'm 55 years old. I've got my 911 that costs me $2,500 a month and so on. And I've got my business. Yeah, well, that's different. You probably have a good credit score there, okay? You're not worried about if I lose my job or my car will end up being repossessed because it was more than I could afford. And a dealer basically was raping you because he just wants his commission. He don't care if you lose it in a month or wreck it. I'm just trying to give some insights to some of the things that I've learned. And spending money to impress others when you're completely broke, you're always going to be broke. That's the problem. And that's what I was trying to impress about people. There's other ways to go ahead and do things. And that's what I'll do on it. Have a great day, good people. And it's going to be busy this off season, man. My wife's like, oh, good, it's the off season. No, we can't. No, we can't. It's freaking Cowboys. It's Jerry Jones. Instead of trying to build a team that's good to go to a Super Bowl, it's just easier to just be screwed up. Peace out.